Hello, my name is William Michael. I'm the founder of the Classical Liberal Arts Academy and headmaster, and I'd like to welcome you to the Academy website and provide you with a short video in which I describe some of the unique characteristics of our program and try to save you some time so that you can learn about our program as efficiently as possible and hopefully get started and begin to enjoy the benefits in your own Catholic homeschool. In 2008, I left my preparatory school teaching position as the upper school classics teacher at a school here in Charlotte, North Carolina, because while I had the privilege of teaching as a classicist, teaching classes like Latin and Greek, rhetoric, reasoning, philosophy, history, and so on, I was restrained by the modern K-12 system, working in a school that simply served the requirements of modern high school diplomas. And while I could have created enjoyable and edifying courses within that K-12 modern school system, I knew that I needed to do much more. I knew that the students needed much more. I knew that there was no reason why elite students were only in school 180 days per year. That makes sense in a public school which is serving the common people, people who need to work, people who we should assume are going to have to do manual labor to earn a living in their lives. It's understandable why a public school would only have class 180 days per year and why they would focus on just a handful of basic subjects. But that makes no sense for elite students who are seeking classical education within a Catholic tradition of academic excellence and wisdom seeking. And so as a teacher and also as a student, I knew that I had to get out of the K-12 public school model in order to really pursue the standards and goals of traditional Catholic education. And the only way that I could do that was to create a new program, start from scratch, and set the goals of that program on the true goals of historic Catholic education. And so in 2008, I did that. I started the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, and 13 years later, the program has continued to develop and grow. I've also learned an incredible amount from not only my experience, but also my continued study. And as the Lord's provided me with the opportunity and privilege to study and research the classical Catholic curriculum for over 25 years now, I'm very confident that what we have to offer in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy is available nowhere else. And not only is it available nowhere else, which would be good enough, but we've also been able to make it accessible to Catholic families in a convenient and flexible and affordable way, which I think is really one of the most important achievements that we've been able to make. So if you look at our curriculum, what you'll find is it's not a modern school curriculum. It's not a K-12 program. We're not teaching the modern public school subjects, at least not directly. We're not focused on those subjects. We take the knowledge of many of those subjects for granted because in any decent Catholic family, many of those subjects are learned just by imitation. The Catholic school was originally created for students who were running wild in the streets in the late 1800s as immigrant families came into America, as farm families moved from the farms to the cities. There were many children just left free in the streets all day, and the public schools were originally created to educate those children, those street children who had no other form of education. Our society was industrializing, And so the factories needed workers. We were developing a democratic society, and so immigrants had to learn what it meant to be American and how democracy worked. And the public schools were designed to serve those students and serve those goals. And they were funded by taxation, by state subsidies. That educational program has nothing to do with Catholic education. It has nothing to do with the education that was given to Catholic students throughout history. It has nothing to do with what the saints studied or taught. It has nothing to do with what the ancient wise men studied or taught. It's a modern education that's meant to simply provide for the minimal requirements of an education of an American citizen. And it's not appropriate for Catholic children with educated parents who are willing to provide them with either private schooling or homeschooling. And so the biggest problem in modern Catholic education is that because the schools and even the homeschool programs, whether you're talking about a Catholic program like Seton Home Study, Mother of Divine Grace School, Catholic Heritage Curriculum, Colby Academy, any of the Catholic homeschool programs, they all take the K-12 program as their model and just try to dress it up a little bit. But that really is not proper for Catholic families. That's not what Catholic children need. That's not what Catholic students ever were taught in the history of the Catholic Church. And if we want to go back and not merely give lip service to saints and wise men, but if we want to really imitate them, if we want to follow their advice and put their counsel into practice, then we have to return to the classical liberal arts curriculum. We have to return to a philosophy-based curriculum. We have to return with a focused study of Catholic theology. And that curriculum is not going to fit into a K-12 program that runs 180 days per year, nor should we expect it to do so. The 180-day modern school calendar, the K-12 arrangement of studies, the modern public school subjects, English, foreign language, math, science, and social studies, that's not sufficient for a true Catholic education for life. It's not sufficient. And so, as I said, in 2008, I knew that there was no option, not only for me as a teacher, but also for my family. I have 10 children, and my wife and I are both classicists, and we always intended to homeschool our children. But when the time came to actually do so, when our firstborn son was 8 years old and really getting to the point where he needed to be in formal studies, we looked around, because I was teaching at the time, we looked around and there was just nothing that was sufficient to provide a true historic Catholic education. And so I knew that I needed to create something, and in 2008 I founded the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. And what we've done is simply go back to the historical sources, the actual schools that existed in Catholic history, the actual books that were used in Catholic history, the lives of the saints which describe for us the education that they received and the courses and the studies that they themselves taught. We've gone through all kinds of different source texts to reconstruct what they understood to be a Catholic curriculum, so that if St. Augustine or St. Thomas Aquinas were to walk up and knock on the front door and take over the education of our children, we'd like to know what those saints would teach them if they were here. If we could send our children to a school that was run by St. Thomas Aquinas or St. Augustine today, what would the curriculum look like? And we've worked to restore that classical liberal arts curriculum. So if you look at our curriculum pages, you'll see that First of all, we teach the 7 classical liberal arts. You'll see other homeschool programs talk about the 7 liberal arts, but then when you look at their curriculum, you'll find that they don't teach the 7 classical liberal arts. So for some reason, they will use pictures of those arts. They'll use pictures of the ancient philosophers and ancient curriculum, even the ancient saints. But then when it's time to teach the children, all of that gets thrown out of the way, and we end up with just a modern K-12 curriculum. Whereas in our curriculum, we actually teach the same 7 classical liberal arts that were taught throughout church history. We also teach classical philosophy as it was taught in history. We teach Aristotle's ethics, Aristotle's physics, and Aristotle's metaphysics. We also teach Aristotle's art of reasoning. And how do we know these things were taught in history? Because we have writings of saints that refer to them. We even have commentaries written by the saints on these works. We even have the actual lecture notes of saints like Thomas Aquinas on these subjects as they taught them in history. So the classical liberal arts, classical philosophy, and also Catholic theology. We'll see other Catholic programs will have religion courses. Even modern Catholic schools will have religion courses where they'll use some kind of faith formation textbook type study program. But they don't really introduce the children to the real sources of Catholic theological studies, which are the sacred scriptures and the catechetical materials of the Catholic Church, or even more importantly, the Summa Theologica of St. Thomas Aquinas. So these original sources, while they may be talked about in modern religion programs, are not studied and experienced and engaged with by the students. And in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, we avoid these modern problems and introduce the students directly to the original sources of Catholic theology. So classical liberal arts, classical philosophy, Catholic theology, and lastly, the humanities. In addition to those classical studies, we also provide for students to study world history, world literature, the fine arts, and so on at a theoretical level. And all of that is presented in a curriculum that's unified and coherent, that follows all the same principles, that makes use of ancient and trustworthy texts and study materials. And all of that is provided for on the Academy website. There's no books to purchase. There's no expensive costs of our program. A student can enjoy everything that our program has to offer for only $25 per month. And we've always made it a goal of ours to make classical Catholic studies not only excellent for the students academically, but also affordable and realistic for parents. And technology allows us to do that in an incredible way. Many parents might object to the use of technology, but that's really usually that aversion to technology is just caused by kind of a shallow understanding of that technology, or a lack of realization of how much is available to their children if they're willing to do a little work and learn how to use that technology. So we make use of technology to present all of the lesson materials to students online so that no books are needed to be purchased. The books that we teach from would cost families thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's just not realistic to ask families to do that. For example, we give children access to the Oxford English Dictionary, which alone would cost $1,000 for a copy of that dictionary, and it's included with enrollment in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. And you just multiply that by the writings of the Church Fathers, the scriptures, the Summa Theologica, all the philosophical works, ancient texts, and so on. And there's just no way that families would be able to afford to teach their children in print what we're able to provide them with through the help of modern online technology. Our program is very simple. It requires no fancy equipment. We try to make things as simple as possible so that families where parents are knowledgeable and skilled in these studies can enjoy access to the materials as affordably as possible. But we also make tutoring available for anyone who wants it at what I believe is an affordable rate, especially because we offer the same rate to individuals or groups. So if individual tutoring is too expensive for a family, they can work to organize a group with other parents for other students and simply divide the cost of tutoring by the number of students in that group, because the price per hour doesn't change whether it's one student or a group of students. So I believe that we've not only been able to restore the classical Catholic curriculum, which is great in itself, but we've also worked very hard to find ways to make it accessible and affordable and also flexible for homeschool families. By flexible, what I mean is that all of our courses are self-paced. Students can start at any age. They can start at any time during the year. It doesn't matter if students have academic strengths or weaknesses. They can enjoy the same quality curriculum at their own pace, because all of our courses, all of our lessons, everything is self-paced. When a family purchases an online course, they have access to that course forever. There's no expiration dates, no deadlines, nothing. And flexibility is one of the greatest benefits of homeschooling, because it contributes so much to the quality of life of the homeschool family. For example, my family this week, we're going on vacation, and I'll be taking my computer and phone with me, and I'll just keep working like usual. And that's one of the great benefits. I can bring my studies with me. I can take it to the beach in the evening when we're back at the hotel, relaxing. I can pull out my laptop and work. Kids could study if they want to. We work year-round. We don't take 180-day school calendar. We follow whatever the normal flow of family life is. If family is visiting, or if there's something to do and we'd like to take a day or a week off of school, we do that. We don't worry about it, because the flexibility of the curriculum and the resources we have gives our family great flexibility to enjoy a high quality of life. So all of those things, since I'm not only a teacher, but also a homeschool father, I've tried to consider all of those needs and work them into our program. So not only what we teach, but how we teach it benefits homeschool families. You'll find that by giving your children the best possible education, a classical Catholic education, you'll also save thousands and thousands of dollars. There are just too many benefits to get into, and I trust that the more we trust in the saints and in their advice, and continue working, we're going to see that the benefits just multiply over time, because we didn't settle for the modern curriculum and just try to fit in. We didn't settle for modern accreditation and simply try to offer what everyone else offers with a little bit of Catholic stuff sprinkled on top. We went back and really went to the root and restored the whole system of classical Catholic education. And now, as it works itself out, we're starting to see all of the benefits come to life, all of the fruits that are produced and that are possible with this classical Catholic curriculum. And we're seeing just more and more of how much modern education has created so many different problems, not only with low academic standards, but the disorder it causes in family life, the division that it causes in family life, the cost, the unsustainability of modern education, and when all is said and done, the failure of modern education to provide children with the wisdom that they need for real life. That's the biggest objection that I would make, and all of that is addressed by simply returning to real classical Catholic education. The last thing I'd like to say before I wrap up here is, When I refer to classical education, parents often contact me and they say that they're already familiar with classical education, or they have already been using the classical method. And I just like to say, please be careful that you don't allow other homeschool programs or publishers to tell you that this or that is classical unless they furnish you with historical proof that it is in fact classical. Because many booksellers and publishers have simply advertised things as classical to make them desirable in a competitive academic market, and they have absolutely nothing to do with classical education. An example that I make most criticism of, I just published an article yesterday looking at 15 different questions that parents should ask about classical education. Mother of Divine Grace School advertises itself as a classical Catholic program, and you'll find that they don't even offer classical languages. They don't offer any philosophy courses, any source-based theology courses, no reasoning courses, no rhetoric courses, no classical quadrivium, and yet they advertise as a classical education program. And like I said, parents come in assuming they already know what classical education is because they've been in another program that called itself classical. And I'd just like to ask you to please refrain from doing that and take some time to learn what classical Catholic education actually is and allow it to benefit your family. To help with this, I wrote a book titled Understanding Classical Catholic Education. That book is available for free on the Classical Liberal Arts Academy website. If you download a copy of that book, you can flip through it. I explain the whole history of classical education. I explain how the Catholic Church embraced classical education, how saints participated in classical education over time, and I give parents everything that they need to know and understand true classical Catholic education. And rather than assuming that you know what classical education is, because I would wager that you don't, because as I said, I've been working to research this for over 25 years, and I feel like I'm barely scratching the surface. And yet I have homeschool parents telling me they already know this. And they've just been misled by booksellers using classical education as a way to market books that have nothing to do with classical education. So please take a look at that book, Understanding Classical Catholic Education. Look at the curriculum page on our website and read through that so you see what the classical Catholic curriculum actually is and was. Look at the list of courses on our website. There's over 90 courses. Most students will not get through all of those, and they don't need to, because the classical Catholic curriculum is actually a curriculum that can be studied for a student's entire life. Many programs talk about that. They talk about lifelong learning, but they don't even provide enough material to study all year, let alone throughout one's life. Whereas in our program, by restoring the real classical Catholic curriculum, you'll easily see that there's enough material for someone to study for his entire life. And you can see that on our courses page. As far as enrollment, you can choose to purchase courses individually. And as I said, there's no deadlines or expiration dates when you do so. The courses cost $125 each, but you can purchase them using payment plans that require no fees or finance charges. You don't have to use any credit cards or anything. If you want to take a course, as I said, it costs $125, but if you want to divide that by 10 months, it's simply $12.50 a month, and you own that course and can take as much time as you'd like to study it. Another option for enrollment is a simple subscription, where we offer a student plan for $25 a month. That gives students access to every course that we offer. And again, the price is just $25 per month for student. And then if you've got a number of students you'd like to enroll, you can simply enroll in the family plan, which costs $100 a month and offers the same benefits for all of your children. So the most you would ever need to pay to access all of our curriculum materials would be $100 per month. And then if you want to pursue more than that, there's tutoring services available, which you can look into and make use of. So whether you're looking for an individual course to enrich another program or a school program, we offer plenty of resources for that. Or whether you're willing to trust and follow the advice of wise men and saints from history and commit entirely to the classical liberal arts curriculum, we're able to provide you with everything that you need in a flexible and affordable way in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. And as I said, I'm a homeschooling father with 10 children. I know all about the day-to-day practical experience and challenges of homeschooling. I see my wife working with our children every day. I see the things that she struggles with. I see the benefits and the challenges. And we're always working to develop our program with the homeschool family in mind. And I believe that if you're willing to learn and practice and think differently about education rather than trying to force everything into the K-12 model, if you're willing to learn a different model, a different approach to education, you'll find that all of the problems that people complain about in homeschooling can be solved and eliminated. But we have to be willing to try something different. And rather than just try something different, we have the benefit of going back to something that was proven and trustworthy, that is responsible for the education of all of the saints and wise men that we want to teach our children about. Rather than just telling them about those saints and wise men, we can actually allow them to enjoy the same education in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy. So I hope that's a helpful introduction. I tried to make that brief. It still took me almost 30 minutes. There's tons of material on our website. You can dig around and browse and read anything you like. We even make sample lessons for all of the courses available for you to explore and get started with. But what I recommend is that you take a look at that book that I mentioned, Understanding Classical Catholic Education, and communicate with us. I'm directly accessible. You can chat with me on the Academy website. You can email me at mail@classicalliberalarts.com. You can even call me. My own personal mobile phone number is right on the website, on the Classical Liberal Arts Academy website. So I invite you to ask questions, to demand proof, to look for answers, to hold other programs accountable. And I think that you'll find very convincingly that what we offer in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy is the real, historic, classical Catholic curriculum. And there are many, many benefits to be enjoyed when your family embraces and commits to that curriculum. So please get in touch, ask questions. I'd be happy to answer those questions. I'd be happy to prove anything that we say on the website, anything that we say about our curriculum, study materials, history, and so on. I can furnish all of the proof for it because we've been working on this for 25 years now. And we don't just make, empty claims for the sake of book sales and advertising. We've worked to do the research and restore the true materials, and we can show them to you and prove that what we say is true. So I hope that's a helpful overview. Again, if you have questions, we're here. This is what we do all day, every day, year round. So please get in touch, ask your questions, let us help you, and fix the things that are wrong with efforts in Catholic homeschooling and even private schooling, and give your children all of the benefits that are available to them in the classical Catholic curriculum. God bless.